Hi, good morning. I'm Alan June. I'm going to modify what I had prepared to say this morning just to make it more interesting, I think. You've heard a lot of comments that are quite similar, and they're all very, very important and very relevant. So I'm with BASF, but I've only been with the company for 5 months. So right away you're going to say, why are you up here on this industry panel? Well, you can tell by the gray hair that this is not the beginning. This isn't my first rodeo in terms of being a professional in human resource leadership and in the talent acquisition field. So even though I'm new to the chemical industry, I'm not new to some of the challenges that are faced when we try to recruit students who have that science, technology, engineering, or math background, because that is a very pervasive challenge regardless of the industry. And by the way, I worked 10 years in pharmaceutical manufacturing, and so I do know a little bit about those science and math and engineering backgrounds. But I want to talk first of all about a story. When I was a young man, I had a passion in life. I wanted to be a pilot. But I came from a rather modest upbringing, and college seemed like a distant dream that was never going to be realized, and I felt like that was the first step towards ever becoming a pilot. But events in my life changed unexpectedly, and I was able to attend the university and got a good university education at Baylor up in Waco. And I was fortunate enough to follow that with a career in the Air Force. And so I realized my dream of flying. But how that applies to you as STEM educators is this. My degree was in business administration. And I will tell you why it was business administration. I took the path of least resistance. They said, they being the Air Force, said, take whatever degree you want. All you have to do is graduate in 4 years and we'll send you to pilot school. And I said, gotcha. So after talking with a few friends on campus, I said, hey, where can I muscle through this 4-year program the easiest? And they steered me to the business school. Now, any of you know Baylor, you know that's not necessarily accurate. The business program is very aggressive. Anyway, what I found, though, when I entered undergraduate pilot training several months later is this, that my colleagues who had an engineering degree or a background in science had a much easier time with the academic portion of the training. And I made it through all right. I didn't crash anything. I didn't have any mishaps. And I didn't fall behind in my studies or in my flight skills training. So I graduated, earned my wings, went on to have a successful career. But I knew that my background in education gave me a bit of a disadvantage. And so I think it's very important that you be here today and that we be here today to talk about matching a student's educational background with a career field. At the end of my presentation, I've only got a half a dozen or so slides, but I decided that it was important for you to have a takeaway. Something you could do today, not write for a grant proposal or not to lobby a congressman or set up a site visit with your local industry partner, but something you could go back to the classroom next Monday and do immediately to move the STEM challenges forward. So I'll save that to the very end, but I think it's going to be something that you'll find to be very easy to do and something your students are actually going to like to hear about. So as I said, I've only been with BASF a few months, but as I've been here, I've learned a few things that our industry is not different from any other industry. We need skilled employees. I took this quote out of a presentation that was done by a colleague of mine, Joe Arnold, who is manager of government affairs and hangs out in Austin, Texas all the time. But Joe shared that with me out of one of his presentations, and the next slide says BASF needs educated, skilled employees. And that is absolutely true. I moved to Freeport, Texas. Those of you who don't know, it's just about 30 or 40 miles south of here. And it's a very small community when you're familiar with Houston. So we have one college resource in town, and when we do our local area recruiting for technicians, a lot of them pass through the doors of Brazosport College. So we'll talk about our partnership with Brazosport in just a minute. But as an HR professional, there are a few things that keep me up at night related to people. And so this is the first one. 45% of the employees at BASF in Texas will be eligible for retirement over the next 5 years. Well, that's good news and bad news. The bad news is 45% of us are going to retire or be eligible to retire soon, and we have to be replaced because we are a growing company. The good news, I guess you would say from an HR perspective, is that must mean you have people who want to make long careers at BASF, and that is true. So we're proud of the fact that we do have that kind of dilemma ahead of us. And the next bullet point is that nearly half of the employees at one single large BASF facility in Texas are eligible to retire in the next 5 years. Coincidentally, that's the facility that I'm at. So I've got a little bit of a challenge ahead of me. And when they hired me a few months ago, they said, Alan, we like what you got, we like what you've done, and you won't be successful, though, until you help us bridge the talent gap. So I said, again, I'm up for that. So let's see what can be done. So immediately I started looking at how we can go ahead and plug the gap. So there was a recent survey that kind of shaped my thinking as I started preparing for this challenge. And this was conducted by the Society of Human Resource Management in the third quarter of last year. And they polled over 3,000 HR professionals and asked them, what are some of the missing skills that you're seeing in the workforce today? And so the next 4 bullet points will outline those. So they're critical thinking, professionalism, written communications, and leadership. And they embellish that just a little bit with comments and say it's not just written communications, but it's just communications in general. Now again, I'm going to kind of be personal here and tell you that I've raised 2 teenagers. One of them successfully, the other one to be determined. The challenge of the young generation in terms of integrating into the workforce is immeasurable. And we're finding that today, not just in our homes, but in our recruiting booths. The kids today are bright, they're quick, they're brilliant, they're impatient, they're creative, and they're technically very astute. But they don't work the same way that mom and dad do. My son doesn't work the same way I do, and that's probably been the cause of most of our conflict through his upbringing. But thankfully, he's approaching graduation at the end of this summer, we hope, and hopefully he'll be successful in the next phase, which is to get off dad's payroll and to join some fine company out there. But it's a different generation with different skills and different knowledge. But one thing that we're assured of is that kids today don't focus so much on the things that we all thought were important when we went into the job market. So we see a preponderant or a great gap in critical thinking, professionalism, written communications and leadership, and just communications in general. And the next slide, again, I've got a few bullets that will not surprise anybody in this room. But that same survey done by the Society of Human Resource Management indicated the most difficult professions to recruit. And I have about 5 bullets here, so you can click through those very quickly, and I'll just go through those. Scientists, engineers, technicians, medical professionals, and managers. 4 out of 5 of those are the kinds of folks that Doug and I want to recruit every day. We have a few medical professionals, I think, at both of our areas of responsibility, but that's not one of our big challenges. It's the other 4. And you can help us as the educators and the leaders of these young, creative, ambitious minds coming up through the school systems, through the college systems, and through the university systems. Because the importance of the work that we do is out there. And I think Doug's video illustrated that very well. Chemical industry touches every aspect of our lives. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. The last couple of slides. Go to the next slide. And don't you just hate it when a PowerPoint slide comes up that you can't read? I do. Okay, so go to one more click. That's the area I want to amplify and talk about, but this slide is important because I want you to see that this is not something Alan made up. This is an excerpt from the Austin American-Statesman online edition sometime earlier this month. And this is a comparison of colleges And these are technical schools and two-year colleges in the state of Texas, and they're three best degree programs in terms of the earning capabilities of the school, the majors. So go ahead and click onto the next slide, and we're going to highlight. So this is the box that was circled on the previous slide. And again, you can't read that well, so I'm going to help you with it. This is Brazosport College, the school that I alluded to earlier in my remarks. And this is about 5 miles from the site that I work. Brazosport College, along with Dow and BASF, have a great partnership. We recruit out of their process technology degree program extensively. That program specifically prepares young people to come to work and hit the ground running at our plants. And it's very, very important that we continue that pipeline. Not everybody can be a doctor. Not everybody can be a scientist. But if you want a profession that will be satisfying to you, if you want a profession that will more than adequately provide security for you and your family, this is what I want you to take back to your students. Now, I know you still can't see this slide, so I'm going to help you with a couple more clicks. The Chemical Technical Associates degree program, or the Process Technology degree program, the average first-year earnings for those graduates is $90,000. Hopefully you can see that. Now, if you don't take anything else away from my comments, what I want you to do Monday when you go to the classroom is to share this with your students who aren't already determined where they're going to go next. If they're trying to figure it out, if they don't see four-year college or university on the horizon, or if they're not a scholarship recipient, or if they're not a superb athlete headed towards some school program that direction, and they just want to know what's out there, I'd like you to steer them towards this type of a degree program. We'd love to see them in Freeport, but that's not necessary. Schools all around the state of Texas have the similar degrees. We're about to embark on kind of a cross-state roadshow of recruiting. We're going to explore schools as far west as Abilene and Lubbock, who also host programs like this. We're going to be doing some other exciting recruiting in other areas, but we're going to try to stay away from those fishing ponds that have already been fished out. So we're going to go to other areas of the state where maybe the kids there don't have a BASF or a Dow right next door, and hopefully we'll be able to entice them to join us on the Gulf Coast. But take this back to your classrooms and tell them this is a real opportunity. This is a real deal. We hire 3 classes of starters every year, 20 in each class, a total of 60 new jobs every single year. That barely keeps up with the predicted turnover and attrition and retirements that I showed you earlier. So I've got 60 jobs every year I've got to fill, and this is a real number. $90,000 first-year earnings. I'll also go on to say this, that when you take an average of our senior production techs, those who have been doing the job for a long time and they're fully qualified, their average earnings this year was $110,000. And many of them don't even have the advanced or the opportunity for the 2-year degree. So opportunities in the chemical industry are real, but we really need your help as the educators in STEM, in the STEM world, to nudge your students this way and to share with them what the real opportunities can be. Thank you.